about nuclear weapons in NATO. Really, I think we've discussed ideas for media. We need a strategy for dealing with the media. We need to somehow or other demystify NATO. People generally, citizens throughout Europe, don't really understand NATO, don't know what it's about so much. We need to link up strategical mappings with social issues within Europe. We need to change the way we think about nuclear weapons, remind people about what nuclear weapons do, what the effects of nuclear weapons are. People are forgetting or have not heard about them. Joint statements perhaps to the OSCE and Nuclear-Free Europe, a Europe for peace and social justice. We need to keep exchanging information and ideas on our campaigns. Perhaps produce a briefing on the dangers of NATO in the main languages of the NATO countries. Link the crisis of debt to bankers and bond dealers while social services are being cut, on all the money that's being spent on NATO weapons of mass destruction and also of human destruction. So perhaps a statement from every peace organisation in every NATO state in a multilingual form might be something that we could all use and adopt and show the solidarity between groups within Europe. We need some kind of more emphasis on alternatives to the military, especially the spending on the military. Also, another idea that came up was stories of individuals, such as the Hibakusha in Japan, but also there are others involved in the nuclear tragedy. Those of Christmas Island, who were there when the tests were made, uranium miners, and so on. And so we need to bring the human cost closer to people in the street. And maybe we need also an international working group for nuclear disarmament. So basically those were some of the things, some of the ideas that we came up with, and hopefully we can put some of those in action in the next few months and bring about what we hope will be eventually, of course, nuclear disarmament in Europe, and then maybe nuclear disarmament in the whole world as well eventually. So thanks very much. Thanks.
Thank you. The next I see is Rainer. Jan? No? Okay.
I will give a short report about the working group to Afghanistan. We had two speakers, Joe Gerson from the United States and Shams Ariya from Afghanistan, who gave us an overview about the social situation in Afghanistan as one of the poorest countries in the world, and about the strategic interest of the NATO and the Western industrial countries about the region, mentioning the pipelines, mentioning oil and gas, but also mentioning the new found resources during the last months, which were, Petraeus was saying, this $3 billion of US dollars. And then we discussed very in detail, and I think on a quite high level, the question of the regional development, how the war was enlarged to Pakistan, and that there will be no peace solution without engaging Pakistan, that we really need a regional conflict solution, including all the neighbors countries on one side, but also needs an internal social solution with the different forces in the countries, including the peace jirgas, the trials, and other social forces and non-governmental organizations, that this is the only possibility to overcome the war and the corrupted system of Karzai. And I repeat the words of Shama Ariya. He said, Karzai and his government, supported by the radical Muslims around him, or the Taliban, these are brothers from the same blood. So we really need an independent new development in these countries, and this means, for the first point of all, the withdrawal of all the foreign troops from Afghanistan, and these should be again in the middle point of the action of the peace movement. We discussed shortly that we should really start preparing our activities for the 10 years anniversary of the invasion of Afghanistan in October 2011. And when you are looking to the discussion at the NATO summit yesterday, they were not discussing about the withdrawal. Even when they mentioned numbers of years when they want to withdraw. No of these numbers includes the really withdrawal. It includes only reduction of the troops and transfer the responsibility to the Afghan army. But still a lot of foreign troops should stay in the country. This means they are really looking for an Iraq solution, having foreign forces at the decisive points in the country. This is never what we mean with withdrawal. Withdraw means leaving all troops so quick as possible and starts now. I think this was a common impression of the very interesting working group. Thank you.
Thank you very much, especially for this clarification to Afghanistan. From the working group about military bases, it's Elsa. I would say it's not special because Elsa is speaking now, that we all should try to be inside the 3 minutes. Not special to you.
It was to me.
Yes, I just wanted to say that Jan and I have agreed on this report, but since you were on the stage here, we just did it now.
Yeah.
If you want to intervene, you may.
No,
yeah,
no.
okay. But Tobias thought I talked too much in our workshop. Oh, how many workshops did you do? Anyway, in our workshop was myself and Jan Majicek were convening. Tobias Pfluger spoke. We had hoped also to have a comrade from Spain, and he was denied entry to Portugal. And there was no one coming from Italy. We would have liked to have someone. It was very well attended. We were pleasantly surprised. I think there were about 25 people at our workshop. And it began with an overview, many maps and so forth, showing how NATO has been moving east, has 28 members now, and then some discussion of the ever-growing numbers of partners for peace, now at 28. And each of these, not only the countries, but also partners for peace, must provide bases. And the Partners for Peace program is, of course, used to divide and conquer within Africa, within the Middle East, and so forth, offering these partnerships to certain nations and not to others. Then there was a discussion in the overview about the command structure of NATO, pointing out, which most of you know, of course, that the same commanders as for the U.S. OICOM, the region commanded in the U.S. military structure that goes from the Straits of Gibraltar to the Bering Straits over to by Alaska, and that the same generals are wearing two hats, leading NATO, U.S. such as in Chad. And Jan spoke about the very successful struggle that they had in the Czech Republic against the missiles, the stationing of the missiles, when it was a U.S.-Czech bilateral agreement. And now they are trying to bring this missile project back as a NATO project, and it is far more difficult to raise public opinion against a NATO project than a U.S. bilateral project.